Without further ado, here's Danielle LaPorte. Danielle, I'm super excited to have you here. I've been a fan for a long time, a fangirl for a long time, just kind of taking in your content. Before you joined, I was telling Danae that I don't even remember, I guess this is how social media works. I don't remember even how I found you. You know, you get through these kind of rabbit holes that we go down. But I remember, or I still know, that part of what I love so much about you is that you rarely come at people. Like there is, and I'm in this with you kind of energy to the work that you do. And there's, from obviously the outside looking in, it's soothing, and it's like, come with me, let's do this together. Let's all hold hands. And I think nowadays we have so many experts out there. And so it's refreshing sometimes for someone to be just essentially like giving you that vibe that they're just in the circle with you and not like putting their finger in your face. So I appreciate that.
That means a lot coming from you, because your skill is to read people. Mm-hmm. And also I think, my way is, I'm a seeker. Let me tell you what I found out along the way. But I also have this, I have this really great judgmental streak where I'm just like, the self-help space.
I mean, same.
Yeah. So I try to just point a few things out without doing the call out. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I want to dive in because for those who are listening, Danielle just wrote a new book, not her first, but a new book. Hold it up so y'all can see it who are watching on video, How to Be Loving. And, we usually start these podcasts, especially when somebody hasn't been on before, asking you to kind of take us back in time and tell us the story of kind of how you came to the place that you're at. Is this your second or your third book?
Fifth.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Girl, get it. I love it. So how about a truncated version of how you came to be who you are? But I would also love for the listeners to know how this baby came to be birthed into the world.
Okay, cool. Thanks for saying truncated.
Yeah. I'm also a New Yorker, so I might be a therapist, but I'm like, and let's keep it brief.
Yeah. Well, can I start from present tense?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So I am currently most well known for a book called The Desire Map, which was like this holistic approach to setting goals, which was really more a subversive way to get people to not set goals at all. But if you're still attached to them, this is like a, soul affirming way to do it.
Yeah.
And How to Be Loving is a combination. It's this mashup of the question, how do I want to feel? And my own dark night of the soul, and kind of coming of age in social media. And, we can sprinkle in the past there. It's like, I used to run a think tank in Washington, D.C. I had 21 futurists. We talked about weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
I felt like a big fake, but it was awesome. It looks great on a resume. I moved back to Canada to just kind of get out of that whole scene. I was going to go into fashion design. I got fired from my own company. So I started like a soulful branding consultancy. We raised a bunch of money. If Oprah calls, the best thing to do is tell all your friends Oprah just called, and then you raise some capital. And then I got fired from that. I got Steve jobbed from my own business. So there was this theme of like, I'm just going to go it on my own, And then I kept that theme like worked into my creativity of just like, I can't find a date planner that actually, in marketing speak, I say like puts my soul on the agenda. So I made one. And that's, and I want a different approach to goal setting. So I made one. And then I realized that this is the big revelation is over the past couple of years is a combo of like mystical research, like what do the mystics really think about the subconscious and feelings? And I wanted to go like beyond Jungian.
Right. I mean, even further, even deeper.
Further. Like, yay, Carl. I quote him a lot in How to Be Loving. I think Carl Jung wanted to go further.
He did.
But he was, he had a brand too. And I realized through just a series of challenges and relationships that me feeling fulfilled and like really close to something bigger than myself, like me feeling meaningful and actually lit up, had nothing to do with being in a good mood.
Wait, say that again.
Feeling fulfilled
Okay.
has nothing to do with your mood.
I'm like working with a client almost exactly on this topic right now, which is why I was like, whoa, that just landed. Okay.
Because I think a lot of us can get down with the concept that love is not a feeling. I mean, this is like really like, okay, if I'm going to step on a soapbox, the first step is like, okay, everybody, guess what? It's not a feeling. It's not an emotion. You will have feelings because of love.
Mm-hmm.
But love is like, oh, it's a state of consciousness. It's a way of being. It's the fabric of the universe. I mean, there's all sorts of poetic ways to, but it's actually not a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in the presence of it, you feel things.
Mm.
You actually get on the pleasure pain roller coaster, but that's a whole other topic. And, you know, I'd heard Marianne Williamson say a few years ago, she's like, stop trying to be happy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is what I've been saying. Stop trying to be happy. Because happy can get so ego.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got here.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I want to dive in because I have to say I devoured, and I know how this works, right? We were just talking about how I came off my own tour. So I would say like maybe 30% of the people who we did podcasts with actually read the book, right?
Yeah.
But I will say I read at least 50% of it. So I think that's a good
That's
percentage,
awesome.
considering I got it like 4 days ago.
Yeah, that's a solid A+.
And you can see because I've got stars and highlights and all kinds of things.
Mm.
So I want to give my ego a pat on the back for that. But
Yeah.
one of the big topics that I want to just kind of dive right into with you, because it's something that Danae and I speak to frequently, is this idea of spiritual bypassing, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a big one. It's something that Danae and I have, I feel like almost talked about, turned over from every angle, but I particularly want to speak about it with you because I love what you say about this mantra almost, or this prayer of bless and release, which I love, which to me feels more like the act of acknowledging it. Like it's not a forgiveness, it's more of an acceptance in order to move into a place of, I don't know. I don't want to say taking power back. That might feel a little bit too masculine, but maybe. And then also there's like kind of two things in here. I want to get into the spiritual striving as a form of bypassing. So first and foremost, will you tell us a little bit about what your perspective is kind of on this concept of spiritual bypassing, which I think Danae and I see so frequently out there?
It's an epidemic. And I don't know if it's a new thing. I think maybe we've been doing it for eons. So it's like, it's really okay. My quick definition is you take a situation that looks unspiritual. It looks greedy and it looks jealous and it looks like hurt and it looks like anger, all these so-called non-spiritual, unspiritual things, you know? And then you take like a shiny spiritual concept and you just smear it all over your humanness. So
I love that visual, by the way.
Right? It's this big spiritual bypass butter. So, you know, we tell ourselves, well, the internal dialogue is, I'm angry and so I'm not spiritual. I'm fed up and that's not very evolved. And then the spiritual bypass tools, I think there's 3 of them. One is everything happens for a reason. That's what we say. The other thing is it's karma. And the third one is there's a gift in the pain. I was just thinking about this morning.
Yeah.
I think all of those principles are universal truths. There is karma. There is always a gift in the pain. And I think everything does happen for a reason. I think the soul is really calling the shots at all times. But if you don't get into your humanness, you're going to miss the holy opportunity. It's like the opportunity is, I'm enraged. There's something to look at. Yeah. I got to love my rage. I got to love how shitty I feel about my rage. And that's the chemistry move. to be like, the spiritual thing to do is to love the stuff you think isn't spiritual.
I love that.
And you expand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Danae, your audio's off. I was wondering why you were so quiet. So I was like, she's a therapist. She does that a lot like I do. And I didn't hear her.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear
Yeah.
you.
We can hear
It's
you
so
now.
funny because I tried to jump in a couple of times and I was like, okay, B, well, go on.
I just thought you were letting me carry it.
That's really funny. So I feel a little bit torn, Danielle, because I feel like spiritual bypassing is certainly, I would say, my Achilles heel. It's probably the thing my own therapist calls me out on the most. And I find that when I am in the space of avoiding my mess, or really trying to put, some sort of a positive, not even positive, but like I'm a meaning maker. Like I will find the meaning. I will get there. Maybe sometimes a little bit quicker than is useful. But I find that life comes in and does not allow me to do that. So I feel a little bit torn sometimes when I see so much of the content that is like railing against love and light, and these people need to stop spiritual bypassing and this toxic positivity, which of course those things are very real. And I find that life will serve us what we are meant to be served in divine order a lot of times. So I don't know if that's even if there's a question there really, but I guess
what's the tension?
I guess, here's what I think comes up for clients so often lately is we are constantly in the space of I'm doing this thing called life wrong. And I think there's so much about social media that is really reinforcing that, right? You should be doing the work. You need to be in here. You need to be looking at your stuff nonstop. And so I feel like there's also a way that we can get into the space of not really living, but like constantly picking apart what I'm doing wrong, where I'm bypassing, where I'm not like doing the work that I should be doing. And sometimes I get to the space with clients where I'm just sort of like, you know what? I think you need to just live a little bit more, because I promise you, you are only going to avoid whatever dark night of the soul you were meant to experience for so long. The universe has a way of working those things out for you. Do you know what I mean?
I think the most spiritual, esoteric, powerful thing, one of the most powerful healers ever gave me was two things. First thing was take breaks. The other thing was you don't have to process everything. And I was like, what? I don't have to micro think and what? And, and this is very, the Buddhist perspective of you are the sky, the feelings, the emotions, they're the clouds. You don't even need to observe the clouds. Like, it's just like, keep just being, this is what's happening today. It's really the mind that wants to process everything. I mean, like I think the end game, not that there's ever an end game, is, maybe this will be like 10 books from now. It's about beingness.
Yeah.
But like, since we have a mind and since the mind will desire, let's just, I started with goal setting. Since we want things, let's go about it holistically. And it's like, okay, since we have minds and the mind will divide, why don't we use the mind on behalf of love? And then I think you get to that kind of Eckhart Tollean place of you're not even really thinking about it. And then you get to peace out. You don't have to do this duality thing anymore.
I think what I hear you saying today too is because I've seen it. Obviously, I know you so well that I know that some of these principles have been so transformational for you in your experience. And I know that Danae and I both, as therapists, really struggle being with people in deep depression, like sitting with and being with people in deep depression. That sometimes there is a tendency to want to kind of shake some people and say, like, you don't have to be in it all the time. Like, you are able to pull out sometimes and experience joy and experience love, and that doesn't have to be bypassing, right? Like, it doesn't mean that you're skipping the work. It doesn't mean that you're not feeling the feelings. And I actually, as I'm saying this, there's a part in your book where you talk about the difference between, is it being with your pain versus, I wrote it down, and it almost feels
pain versus being with it.
Yeah.
which is, I think, where I think that's spiritual maturity. It's like the pain is happening. I created the pain. And this is not a spiritual bypass. Like, and this isn't self-flagellation either,
Right.
where, now that, gets into a discussion about like soul and karma, where I think the soul is dispensing all of our lessons, even the unthinkably tragic, traumatic, horrible things that happen to us. It does not mean that we don't meet ourselves with extreme compassion and confusion and leave room for mystery. You got to leave a lot of room for mystery. My observation in this space is that there's a problem right now with people over-identifying with their trauma.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think because lots of people, we have access to therapy. That's really changed the game for how we grow. It's like we aren't in nature as much. We don't, and that's by means of lifestyle. And we don't go into nature to heal. Like you couldn't dial up a therapist even really 20 years ago. Like you had to make an appointment, all this. And now it's all on Zoom. And so I think because just the accessibility of it, we train the mind less. We're becoming dependent on therapy. And the ego will want you to identify as your trauma as long as possible. It will want you to stay in the soup. It's actually the ego mind that is creating the depression. It's inescapable for lots of us. I think the ego is like, this is so important to say. It's like, I am for loving the ego.
I think that's really important to say.
The ego is it's one of the greatest gifts. The shadow is how you find your light.
Yes.
The ego that is all this masking is how you realize who you really are. It's great. So I'm not even about confronting the ego. Stop trying to overcome your ego.
I agree.
Love it. Have a engage in a friendly way with your dark side.
Well, there's also, it's kind of like, it's a protective quality too. It's like when I'd say to clients, thank God for all those defense mechanisms. Let's not throw them all out the window. They serve a purpose. You're here. You've made it this far, right? And you've developed those along the way, and thank God for them. You don't want to get rid of them. I would say the same for the ego. You first of all, you can't. So good luck trying.
Yeah.
Right. Let me know out there when you do decide, you figure it out how to actually get rid of your ego. But why would you want to? It's such an important part of what makes you human. That I almost sometimes feel like not only is it such an important part of what makes you human, but it in a way can almost be the portal to the spirit.
Yes. And you made it.
Yeah.
It's your creation. It's like, would any of us want to get rid of our children? No. Can you erase the fact that you have had a child? I mean, there could be a fracture. There could be a break. Maybe you disown each other. Yeah, but you can't erase the fact that you created another human. You cannot erase the fact that your mind is creating things. So stop trying to put all the mind babies on the porch, because then, as you both know, all that stuff in the basement of the psyche is going to be like, hi, oh, you didn't hear me? Okay. How about an anxiety attack? Oh, you didn't hear me? How about
crippling depression?
Yeah.
How about a somatic response, right? How about an ulcer? How about heart issues? How about, migraines, whatever it might be.
Which I'm really interested in talking about all those somatic responses in an esoteric way, because, I can just be kind of on my metaphysical bender and say, look, the heart is for giving. The heart is forgiving. I mean, we can put a pin in the conversation about forgiveness, but it's like, you are meant to love. You were meant to radiate love, receive love, give love. When you don't do that, you create energy blockages. Now we can bring in some science and back it up. It's like, just think about the common cold and some stress. What happens, right? Basic lack of self-care leads to stress and all that. I want to go even deeper. It's like when you are not giving love to yourself, your mind babies, to others, you create energy blocks that will possibly create a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Those energy blockages will grow tumors.
Mm-hmm.
So love really is the medicine. That's the punchline. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something I've heard you speak about, Danielle, that I feel like has really been helpful to me in my relationships, which is that a lot of times we're really conditioned to think that we need to be rigid in boundaries, when a lot of times the work is more around accepting people in the space of who they are and what their capacity is. And I know for me in some of my core relationships, just getting out of the space of resistance to who this person is has been so helpful. And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit more about that.
I would love to, because I think this is so key right now. I think we're becoming overbounded. And this is how I look at it these days. Boundaries, essential. Gotta have them. Learn about them. Self-respect. All the scripts. So much great material out there right now around boundaries. And some not so great stuff. It's not the end game. Like, I would love to see the therapeutic relationship going like this. We're going to witness you. We're going to look at the impact and the patterns that formed because of the trauma, the family of origin stuff. And could we consider that the end game is forgiveness? I think it's like radical. I know how radical that could be. Like if I would have walked, I've had so much therapy. If I would have walked in the beginning and I was just like, I need to be heard and seen and understood. And I don't even teach me how and why I'm so fucked up. Right. And if my favorite Jewish Buddhist psychotherapist would have said, we need to work on forgiving, I'd just be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I need to. Yeah. Fuck you. I need some. Yeah. But isn't that the point? That we move beyond in such a way, we expand in such a way that we are more whole. And when we're more whole, that love is going to flow. I mean, my experience is it's forgiving that has been, it reconstitutes me those times when I do it. It's the difference between being in relationship with people that I am related to and not.
Yeah, same. I think what people struggle with, Danielle, and I mean, I think I would, as a human, probably struggle with this myself too. But I think what people get hung up on in this idea of forgiveness, right, is they think that forgiveness means that I'm giving something to this other person versus realizing that you're actually giving it also to yourself. Meaning, if I forgive, there's this idea that it means whatever I'm forgiving for is okay. That whatever you've quote unquote done to me, that I'm saying that that's okay. Right. And I try to explain to clients that that's not actually what that is. Right. No one is actually saying that you have to condone bad behavior. There is a difference, but the forgiveness, this idea of allowing it to not consume you and harden you and fester in you. Right. That's for you too.
Oh, yeah, totally. And it's not the miracle of forgiveness is you did that awful thing and I'm going to love you anyway. We don't have to have dinner together. My life, my job for myself is to create conditions of healing. And so you're not invited to the wedding, but I am wishing the best for you. I remember why I love you. That's miraculous stuff. That's how you become a spiritual grown-up. Everybody these days, everybody want to be a baller. That's baller.
Yeah.
Spiritual grown up. And I love what you said about my job for myself is to create conditions of love. I think there's something a lot of times in the resistance is, I don't know, that there's some way that I am on a moral high ground or that I'm not able to see your humanity in this. And
Yeah.
thus, I feel like sometimes we become very similar to the thing that we are unable to forgive. And to that, I think that is where it becomes the spiritual maturity is I don't want to be that thing. And so that is for me to give.
You, Danae, were beautiful. The way that I will never forget when everything happened with George Floyd. And I speak about this often, and just being swept up in the rage. And I mean, I can still easily tap into the rage of it. And you were the one that said to me, I couldn't watch the whole video, but when I did, I actually never looked at him. I never looked at George Floyd. I watched the police officer. And all I could think of was like, you were in pain. And all you could think was, what happened to you?
Yes.
And that was such a profound thing for me, not only to hear just anybody say, but also a woman of color to say, right? That is where you were going into this experience and holding that experience. And I'll tell you that that's been transformative for me, because it's really been a way that I've tried my best to approach some of these difficult areas, I suppose, where we're talking about forgiveness or seeing humanity.
Well, this reminds me of the stories of monks who would put pictures of Hitler on their altar.
Yeah.
And not even with the intention that like Hitler's behavior would change, but that if the truth is true, it applies to everybody. Everybody's worthy of forgiveness. And also to consider the karma that he would have to burn through for like, just, it's unfathomable. It's unfathomable. The pain that is inflicted on people who inflict such pain. You've got to have a moment of just like, wow, paying the price for what you've done is, may your soul have mercy on you. Does it make anything okay? No, we know what right and wrong is. Like we get how love works, and this is not it. And you will be feeling that for a long time.
Yeah.
That's so profound. You know, I think there's something about working as a therapist that has sort of shifted my gaze as I look at people, where I'm able to like almost imagine what they must have looked like as a child.
Right.
And it really shifts the way that I work. And I think that there's something in, if you think about, everybody's got something that has sort of cultivated their experience of life and what this world is, but then what cultivated their caregivers' experience of life and what the world is, and their parents, and where does it end, right? Like, at what point do we attempt to say, I need to understand how this happened for you versus you need to pay because I don't know, like, how is that?
And what a burden.
Yeah.
What a burden to think about that you want someone to pay. You got to think about what their payment might look like, what they're going to lose, or solitary confinement, or, you know, getting canceled or whatever it is. I just say to people like, look, you don't have to worry about it. The universe wants everything to come into balance, which is really what karma is. It's not this punishment model. I believe that there's actually no such thing as good karma. I think you are love. You are good. You are pure. And then we have all this stuff on top of it. All of our grievances and our missteps and the shitty things we do that throw our, the perspective of our true nature off balance. And so the soul comes in, or your community comes in and says, that feel good? That didn't feel good. Let's get that back into balance. You told that lie. You were performative. You betrayed. Then can we do 10 great things to sweep that up? So we only need to burn illusions, burn karma. And we just get down and like, oh, I'm love. I'm compassion. I'm forgiving. I'm radiance. We just, yeah.
Do you think that this belief, I guess, and I'm weaving in a question that I had from a different part of the book, but it feels appropriate here. This belief that so many of us have that God is outside of us, that is sometimes this cause of so much division, because it does give us like this us versus them, or like this punitive way of looking at spirit, at like what's bigger out there. Wonder what your thoughts are on that.
I think it's a form of torture.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think it adds to all kinds of addiction. And, I grew up Catholic, and even like, my mom got knocked up in high school. My parents were super young. It wasn't like I was like steeped in it, but you go to Catholic school, you go to Catholic high school, there's like no escape. And I just replaced Catholicism with the New Age. And I found a way to use all the New Age spiritual principles to just create another punishment model. It's like, okay, now I'm going to burn my karma so that I can still have divine favor. Like I still notice in my own meditation practice, there's still a little bit, I'm making progress. There's still a little bit of negotiating that goes on. Like I'm going to show up as positive today. But when I start to see, and this has really just been in the last couple of years, when I see less of, I got over that God is a male deity doling out punishment. Then I got to, okay, God is in everything. It's been the best thing for my nervous system ever, because I'm not dividing anything into like, this is going to make God happy, or this is holy and this isn't holy. It's like, I am feeling shame today. I'm feeling anger. I was a vegetarian vegan for a long time. Now I eat meat. God's in the chicken. Like, it's just.
Yeah. And when you don't believe that, it becomes easier also to say that person over there different than myself, right? Because when you look at it through, we are all God is in everything and everyone, it becomes harder to judge somebody else when you have to look at them and know that they are God too.
There's do you know Adyashanti? Oh, I think you would both love his work. Californian dude in his 60s now. I think his real name is like Steve something. He's one of my favorite teachers. This is God being angry today. This is God living homelessly. This is God in rapture. Like, you've really got to drive it down. Like, you can't just play with the concept that God is in everything for a day. And wow, your tone will change with people. It's helped me, the God is in everything paradigm. I really want to embody that and not have it just be a concept, but it's helped me not feel sorry for people. Like, I live in the city. I live in a great part of the city where there's lots of nature, but I only have to walk 3 blocks and there's the same dude almost every morning asking for money. And I can go through lots of things. Some days I feel judgmental. I'm like, really, dude? Like, those are new sneakers. And then other days I just move into like the suffering of it. It's just like, God, what's your story? Like, who sexually abused you that created the addiction that now you're here in front of? And how do I know if he's God? How do I know that this isn't his actual spiritual path? Like, some monks take vows that are arguably just as difficult as what this guy on the street corner is doing. I mean, it's the monks with the begging bowls. It's the years of celibacy and isolation. And it's the Buddhist nuns who actually, I mean, this is, quite esoteric, but like, they absorb the suffering energy of other people. So how do I know that dude isn't like on his way to enlightenment because he is begging for change outside the donut shop? I don't know. So it creates some room for me to have some respect for him, actually. Yeah.
I don't know how to ask what's coming up, but I think there's something I've heard you speak to in terms of every relationship being a divine assignment. And I'm wondering if you think that about everyone that we come in contact with in terms of, what you're describing with this man on the corner. And if that is something that I'm working through in terms of my own curriculum, in terms of something that I'm like, he's a part of my assignment. Do you understand? Am I making sense?
Everybody. The guy at the sneaker store where I'm at the back of the store, it's just him and I in this huge space. And he asks me to pull my mask up. That's my divine assignment that day, because I do not have a great reaction to that. All of it. Because just energy beings, right? It's just like whatever's in my field is bumping up against whatever's in your field. And I have an opportunity to expand or contract or to react or to go, wow, that's just like an energy bubble. Yeah, with trauma.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that.
God, I could take this. I could just absorb you all day.
I know.
Just keep going.
Vanessa,
I love having conversations at this level, right? It's just because like you are really, really in it. And, don't you just want to say sometimes to your people, like, just get over it?
Yeah. Yes. That's the hard thing as a therapist, because I believe that most therapists would be lying if they didn't say yes to that sometimes. I think we feel like we're bad therapists if we admit that. But Danae and I have admitted it to each other.
But out of love. Like, it's like, I know you're not allowed to like cheerlead too much. Like, you need to. It's so beautiful. Let people be on their journey, But it's like, I was with a friend a couple of weeks ago, and she was in this business bind with a friend she was in business with. And I was just like, and I can say this because I'm not her therapist. Just say, don't you want to forgive her? I know you do. Come on, and you can see like her body kind of relaxes. But then the mind comes in. She's like, yeah, but we signed the contract. I'm like, yeah. But come on. It just like feels so good to just be over this. Don't you remember why you fell in love with her? You can do it. You can be forgiving, but you can't force any of that stuff.
I love hearing you speak to that, because I feel like I always say it feels so much better. I think when my ex-husband and I were separating, there was just so much, but you're right because of this, and you should. And I was like, I don't know. It just feels better to love him. Like, it just feels easier for me. Like, it feels selfish, but that doesn't feel good. None of that feels good in my body, my soul. Like, I don't want to feel that way. I don't feel like it's about somehow I'm superior to, like, it just, that does not feel good inside of me to hold that,
My experience of forgiveness is it doesn't make me feel superior. Before I actually actively became more forgiving, and I got a long ways to go, I felt that, like, maybe this is a spiritual bypass. I don't know. I haven't looked at it this way, but it's like,
for those listening, there was just a little smile that just crossed your face.
Well, somebody said to me, I had a nasty business divorce, and someone said, are you going to forgive them? And I was like, well, it's really not my job to like get into that. Like, there's still this little hug. I was like, their karma going to take care of them. I was like, and I hope it does. But like the genuine stuff, it's so humbling. It's so humbling because I find there's no place for arrogance and forgiveness, because you're aware that you were not an unforgiving dink before. Like there was a grudge I was holding. It's like, ooh, okay.
No, totally. Well, I had a client yesterday I was on John's podcast talking about my divorce, and she was like, well, good for you, Danae. We all wish we could be so. And I was like, listen, it's just easier. Like, I don't want to be mad at him. It feels awful, but I agree with you. It's not, I did some things I could feel some kind of way about in our marriage, but this feels a little bit.
I remember I had a speaking gig, and I was just like freshly divorced. And there was a woman in the audience who'd come to forgiveness, and she's like, no, we're really into harmony. And, we still go out for family dinners. And I just like, let me tell you how I'm navigating. And I thought like, that was my service. I was like, I have boundaries, and that is my personal growth edge, and, there I am years later in my kitchen, apologizing for having excessive boundaries. Like, really sorry for not letting you on my property for 5 years. Yeah. So there's a little overcompensation, but
yeah. But I also think that, I'm sitting here thinking about like, there's one, whatever, we've all had relationships come and go, but there's one person in particular who is very close to me, who I'm not friends with anymore. And I'm thinking that there is a way to be in the practice of, because I will say it's a practice of forgiveness without actually letting that person back into your life.
Totally.
And I think that's an important point to make too. Like, it's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about, we're not saying that forgiveness means that you're approving or justifying an action, right? A bad behavior. It's more for you. And I think that we can practice, and we should practice being in an active state of, or active practice of forgiveness, and remembering that we can still keep that separation, which goes back to what you were saying about, I'm kind of responsible for creating that love in my life. That's on me to create. And if this person in my life doesn't actually add to that state of loving, I can love them from afar, but that I shouldn't allow them into my sphere.
Yeah. And what happens when you forgive someone for X, Y, Z, and 2 weeks later they do X, Y, Z again? Well, you just make a choice. You keep forgiving, but you gotta tighten the lock. Yeah. Like I'm practicing metta, METTA. I am sending you loving kindness.
Yeah.
I really want the best for you. And my responsibility is my nervous system. So your calls are blocked from my phone.
Right.
Deal. Yeah.
Well, we could talk about this all day. We do want to get into our lightning round of questions.
Oh, I love lightning round.
That we ask everyone.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead, Danae.
Such a gift to get to talk to you. So the first question is, who have been your greatest teachers, Danielle? Either people that you've actually known, or, just people whose work you've been influenced by, mentors, things of that nature.
Greatest teachers, my man. Just reminds me to forgive, expand, be loving. Adyashanti is one of the most, for me, accessible teachers. My favorite book of his is Emptiness Dancing.
Oh, great title.
Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Women Who Run with Wolves.
Yeah.
Really, like,
it's on the way to me right
so
now
good.
in the mail. I'm not kidding. A girlfriend of mine, I just had lunch with her on Tuesday, and she was like, and I thought to myself, I was going to ask you, Danae, I was like, did we read this in school? Because it's a depth psychology book.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And I was like, how have I never read this? Anyway, it's just crazy that you said that, because it's literally on its way to me.
You need to give yourself a couple years
to
be with that book. It's like, it's not a book you read. You are with it.
Yeah, that's what she was saying.
It sealed my womanhood. I finished Women Who Run with Wolves. I am a woman. Yeah, those are some key folks. Yeah.
Amazing. So this concept or idea of flow, right? Like when the word flow is the one that most people know, but I would venture to say also, I'm starting to kind of think about it more like John, my partner, talks about this idea of being a prism, like when something is channeling through you. But what is it for you that you find yourself doing when you're in that state of flow, right? Where you can like blink your eyes and the entire day goes by and you don't even notice.
Writing. And being with my man or my kid. I have an 18-year-old son, and it's just, all I want to do is be on vacation with either one of them and make stuff. Just want to make all day. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like that's the first time I've heard someone speak about their man or their partner as their flow state. I don't know why. That just gave me so much life, but I really loved hearing that. And what breaks your heart?
Child trafficking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one to kind of close it out. What is your favorite food?
Mashed potatoes with ghee.
Yeah.
I
love it.
I would add some corn to that. When I was growing up, it was like you mix the mashed potatoes and the corn, and that is like
corn. Yes.
yes, like the
Yeah.
ultimate Thanksgiving food.
That's like a little bit trashy. That's great.
I love it. I'm all about it. We used to do a little ham steak in there too, but I don't do that. You want to get real trashy.
Trashy. So good.
Amazing.
Aw.
Well, thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on and just sharing your wisdom. And
Gosh.
tell our listeners where, they can find you and where can they get the book? It's wide now, right?
How to Be Loving is out. The response is amazing. I feel softened. I feel so nourished by the response to the book. DanielleLaPorte.com. And we have lots going on. I have a beautiful membership, a monthly support system, spiritual support system called Heart Center Membership. And we have a leadership curriculum where like coaches and therapists and HR directors are having heart center conversations around the world. And I'm on Instagram a lot, but Instagram,
I know.
it's not as loving as it used to be. It's making it very hard to do what we're all there to do.
I know. Danae and I struggle with this all the time.
It's real.
Such a love-hate relationship. Oof.
Yeah. Well, my mic wasn't working in the beginning, so I can tell you now that I really appreciate you, Danielle.
Yeah.
You've been so supportive to both of us in our journey. It's such an incredible teacher to me, and I'm going to speak for Vanessa and say her as well. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. You're such a gift.
I feel really honored. This was so juicy.
Yeah,
let's eat some food together sometime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eating food with people is like my greatest sense of like connection. I'm such a tourist. I'm like, let's eat food and look at beautiful things and smell beautiful smells. And
yeah, there's nowhere else to go.
I love it.
Thank you.